Okay, let's start our training today. So thank you for all of us for joining our training today. And I'm James Zhu, and I work with Sunny Tan, and he's my colleague, and he will demonstrate the provisioning with the PBX setting up, and later he will show the session. Okay. And today we will talk about the DINSTAR IP phone with provisioning with the DINSTAR Yeastar PBX. So normally we know that if you install the IP phone with PBX, you have to use the auto provisioning tool to do that. Otherwise, it's quite troublesome. It's impossible the task to do. So let's talk about our topic today. So in today's topic, I will cover a few sections here. And the first one is the concept of the auto provisioning. So what's the auto provisioning or definitions? And the second part, I will introduce some reasons, share some reasons why you use the auto provisioning. And the third step, I will share about the procedure of the auto provisioning. And step 4, and we'll show some comparison or share some the difference with auto provisioning and zero trust. So in the step 5, I will list out some auto provisioning configure method we use in our PBX environment. And step 6 so far, we have listed out some PBX list so far support our DINSTAR SIP phone with auto provisioning tools. Step 7, I will show you how to configure the DINSTAR SIP phone with the Yeastar PBX. And step 8, I will show you some, my colleague Sunny Tan will tell you how to set up the configuration for the SIP phone and the PBX. And the last session is the QA. And if you have any questions, we will give you some brief QA, give you the answers. Okay. So let's start on our first topic. The first topic is the concept of the auto provisioning or mass deployment. Actually, the mass deployment or auto provisioning is a feature for SIP phone support and implement in the SIP phone with maybe the firmware management or maybe configuration or maintaining the particular features and so on. And actually, auto provisioning is quite useful, especially for large SIP installation and this support for general or more specific configuration or parameter setup. And even sometimes, you have to configure the SIP firmware or update firmware and so on. So here I list out 4 reasons why you use the auto provisioning. Actually, if you manually configure the phone, I think it's not possible. In our maybe testing situation or some work environment, just for simple setup, you may configure some phone, maybe manually configure 1 or 2 phones. But if you face maybe 100 phones or 200 phones, it's quite hard to do that. Okay, so I think it's an impossible task for us. So there are 4 reasons why you use the auto provisioning or auto configuration tools. The first time, of course, you have to take much time. Just I said before, if you configure 100 units or 200 unit phones maybe in the PBX, this PBX, it's hard to do that. You have to use the auto provisioning tool to configure it. And the other thing is the learning curve is very high, especially for if you install one PBX system or phone system, you may use different brands, different vendors' phones, and admin staff maybe have to learn or configure different the GUI to do that. So it's there is a learning curve. So you may spend much time to learn. So learning curve is very high, and sometimes maintenance also is very big issue. the firmware or some features have to update, or some like TLS certificate and so on. So you have to maintain that. You have to configure that automatically to finish your jobs. Okay, and sometimes you have to do the remote management. Nowadays, the SIP phone maybe installed anywhere in different location, so you are not able to personally come there, configure it one by one. So you have to maybe use automatic provisioning tool to do that. So this is the reasons why you have to use the auto provisioning tools to configure your PBS. And if you want to configure or use auto provisioning configuration, maybe you must go the 3 steps. The first step is you have to retrieve the SIP server. Then the second step, you have to maybe fetch the MAC address, phone model or firmware. And step 3, you have to maybe your phone have to install the configuration file, firmware, and remove the phone. So there's the basic step to go. Of course, then it depends. It very depends the phone or vendors. Some vendors support maybe 5 or 6 or 4 retrieve method, and some vendors support maybe the 2 or 3. Of course, there are at least so far. I think most of the vendors offer like cloud service, use RPS, and use a local method. You have to use a local network, access local network, use a SIP PNP or DCP. Of course, sometimes you have to manually configure your server URL to retrieve your files. And sometimes you also can use the TR069 to do that. After retrieve the server URL, you got the models, phone models or MAC address and firmware, and install to your phone system. So after phone reboot, then phone will be able to configure it and make the calls and so on. So it is a critical step you have to follow. Every phone, every vendor have to go this. Okay. Just now I talked about the concept and some key steps you have to follow. And in the market, I think there are some confusion or the concept maybe user have to face every day. And the first one is auto provisioning, and the second one is zero touch. Actually, zero touch is advanced. I mean, it's not accurate, but it's advanced auto provisioning, I think. And if you say this step, you can say that they are much different. If you use auto provisioning tools, and you have to use, maybe staff have to deploy the phones, maybe you don't pass the user password yet, and the phone will maybe discover the phone system by maybe SIP PNP or DCP. After that, phone got the context, configuration for everything, then reboot the phones. And on our side, maybe eventually maybe the admin staff or PBS staff have to go to the system GUI to create the extension and buy phone models or phone MAC address with a particular extension. So after that, maybe it's just the save the button and the phone reboot, and then can register to the PBS. However, if you use zero touch, actually, if you do error touch, is the server side done a lot of work already. So the server configure everything already. So end user or maybe vendor just send the phone to the end user. End user only retrieve the file and power on the phone and plug in your network. Based on network is reachable, then the phone automatically retrieve initial configuration, everything, then reboot that. So we can see here, there's no person to touch the systems, so phone all automatically set up. However, here we have your staff have to configure that. Later we'll show you configure the GUI and so on. Then So far, any questions? If you have any question, please leave the message in the chat box. Sunny Tan may maybe give you the feedbacks or give you answer now. And I will continue the following the sessions here. And normally in the local network, I think there are two configuration methods. One is DHCP, other one is I will talk later than SIP PNP. If you use DHCP, you have at least you have one HTTP server or TFTP server. Sorry, and other one is DHCP server, and configure with option 6 and 67 or 66. And DHCP is I think you have to go through at least 4 steps here, and you have to set the option here, point to HTTP or TFTP in your SIP phone. Here, maybe for example, like the address is this one, and you also have to check out the another option 67 to point to your configure file. For example, here I name it test xml file. On the HTTP server, you copy the file to the HTTP root directory, maybe root or other directory, depending on your setting up. Okay, and if you set the phone, maybe reset or send to the manufacturer environment, then the phone automatically fetch this file, and install everything in the system, in the phone system. Of course, we also offer some reference here is RFC. If you want to talk more detail about the options, you can refer this. Okay, this is URL already. Sorry. Another method in the local network, we use the SIP PNP. SIP PNP is, I think, quite useful or commonly used in the SIP configurations for system. Of course, if you want to set the provisioning, you have to make sure your SIP phone have to enable the option here and support the auto provisioning. And by default, after then, the phone will send the subscribe message to a multicast address. Commonly use this address in the SIP environment. And any server in the environment, maybe in LAN or in anywhere, and maybe the SIP server or PBS, and understand the broadcasting subscribe message and give the reply and SIP notify. And okay, I got you. I know what you want to do, and then send the configure file or containing the URL address and so on, set back to the SIP client. After then, the SIP phone will get the request and they configure the files and so on. So because in our session or in our PBS setups, we use the SIP PNP. So here I gave you the more detail about the SIP PNP. Here we got the one SIP phone, for example, here. And the SIP phone, we may put up the SIP phone and send the subscribe message to all the network, across all networks. Of course, we have to do it in the same LAN. And in the same LAN, and any server, maybe for example server A or server B, and server A understand that and got the message and send the 200 OK back, and send I know the subscribe message, so send back. After then, the SIP phone will send the notify, and the SIP phone also SIP server also send notify message, and also contain the provisioning URL, and ask user SIP phone, maybe you download anything, files, anything you want, and from this URL, then SIP phone not message and say OK. After then the IP phone will send the TFTP, maybe download request or HTTP request. After that, got the file, then install the file in the SIP phone, then reboot the system. So this is the feature we used in our testing or in our demo later. And here so far we list off some PBS list here, and And we have to, I think later we've got the more of partner will join our auto-provisioning, maybe the capability test. And we must say the thank you for all our partners here, like Yeastar, Vita PBS, POSIT, and Fusion PBS, and so on. So we got the win-win situation and to let our end user or customer to got the good experience for the PBS side or phone setup side. Okay. So we always welcome to any maybe a PBS vendor you want to join our maybe compatibility list. We can test that. Since just now I talked about a little bit about the configuration and steps, but I think that if you want to any phone you want to support any maybe models, you have to check. First thing is the firmware. You please make sure your firmware is latest version, and the PBS also PBS firmware is also the match the latest version. Here is our other series, say 16 series, the phone. If you see that, you can see that the firmware, if you want to support auto-provisioning, you must check the firmware version. Make sure the version is this version or later version. And you also have to check the Yeastar PBS. And maybe some customers still use the old version or previous version for the PBS. So if you want to end our DINSTAR PBS, DINSTAR SIP phone to support the auto-provisioning, please make sure you check your version, or maybe update the versions, PBS version to make a testing. Okay, and in the PBS side, we support the two methods. The first one is SIP PNP, another is DSAP. And this is other models. One is the C61S, other one is C62S or 62G. The firmware version is there. You please make sure you have to update the version here, and also have to update the PBS version, and so on. So this is the other models, C63S and C62G. It's same thing. You have also make sure your firmware is compatible and right firmware or later firmware. You update firmware. After that, you check your PBS firmware. Make sure firmware and PBS firmware is correct, and then to do that. Of course, this is another model. I think it's a more advanced phones in our DINSTAR product line. This is C64G and C60. And please make sure you also have to check your firmware and PBS version as well. So just now I talked about the models already, and if you want to set up the Yeastar PBS with DINSTAR SIP phones with auto-provisioning tools, and you have to check your models, make sure models is correct, phone models is correct, firmware is also correct, and you also have to check your PBS, Yeastar PBS. Here is the example you have to maybe follow, and we will teach you how to create the auto-provisioning with the PBS and the SIP phone. If you got the Yeastar PBS with right version, you please make sure you log in the GUI. Here you got the extensions submenu, and go to extension, and under the extension I got the users tapes. Okay, tape there. You got create, maybe you create the extension first. Create extension and fill in any parameter, caller ID, username, password, and so on. After that, you check make sure you enable the security. Check the security setup. Make sure the extensions can be allowed to register remotely. Okay, and this is the first part. Of course, after that, create the extension. Later, you have to go to the other menus. Got you can see here. And there is auto provisioning. On the auto provisioning, there are some phones. Go to the phone and select an IP phone. There is a vendor list. Okay, there's vendor list. There's a lot of the list here. If you have right versions, I think the DINSTAR will be his already. So you select the DINSTAR. Everyone can see the name here, right? DINSTAR. And you enter the MAC address. If you got the IP phone, you know the MAC address already. And select the template. Of course, you also can see that I also have to select the models here. So far, we just use the C61S as a models. And after that, you select the extension you create before. So now you create the one extension, you select your extension here. Of course, you also can use other extensions. After then, you save the auto provisioning the phones, and make sure you select the vendors and the phones and models. After that, your models will bind to this extension. Maybe you wait for a while, maybe less seconds or maybe 1 minute, maybe depends on your environment. If the extension registered in our SIP phone correctly or successfully, then you can see from the PBS UI, you can see the status is in green color already. And vendors, models, IP address, password, temper, firmware, everything looks perfect. It means like the phone registered to PBS already. Of course, if you use auto provisioning to install maybe 100 or 10 phones, everything will be still here. So after then, your phone can't make call already. So it means everything is ready. And I will pass to this session to the Sunny 10. Sunny 10 will give you the demonstration. So how to use our DINSTAR phone with Yeastar PBS to set up the auto provisioning procedures or process. And I will pass to Sunny 10. Later, after demo session, we'll give the questions and answer sessions. So, Sunny, please take it.
Hi, James. Can you hear me?
Okay, can.
Okay, let me share my screen just a moment. I'm using my screen now.
Yes, I stopped already.
Okay, before configuration, show you how to do auto provision, I should explain my environment, okay? And current, we have Yeastar PPX in one network. And in the same network, we have another IP phone for DINSTAR. So, and currently we have 4 devices in the same network. Okay, after we log in the Yeastar, we can check the auto provision phones, and there we will see the phone listed there. Current no phone list there, so we should try to reboot the IP phone. Okay, let me reboot it. Just 1 minute. Okay. Let me reboot the IP phone. Okay, and the current the IP phone will use the PNP reset to the Yeastar. When during the IP phone restart, we can try to create some SIP extension. Okay, and there we can try to back add some extension. We make 5 number as an example. Okay, save. Okay, extension created already. Let us check the phone list there. It may be okay. We found one IP phone now. Let me try to flash. Another phone will come soon. And mostly after device reboot, we can wait 1 minute or maybe 17 seconds. The device will up. Okay, now we can see 3 phones now. First, I will show you how to configuration what single phone. Okay, we can choose the phone and edit. Okay, we can choose the number here, 1003. Okay, we try to flash. The proxy maybe need some second. Okay. Just wait some second. Device. Okay. At that time, let us try to do configuration some server device at the same time. And there we can pick up 2 phones. Now you can say we pick up 2 phones and click the edit. We can choose then the phone number 1001 and 1012. Okay. Save it. Okay, we should wait some second. Now we can see the phone 1002 show online now. Okay. If we can try to configuration about the IP phone. We click the extension and choose the table phone and there. We can set in the configuration of about the codec there. We can enable something and remove, and we can remove another one. We can set the AIT information. And save. So through the okay, we can change the firmware language also. Currently, we can change the English. Yeah, and we can try to enable or disable the co-waiting, the day-night save time, and auto answer some information. So we can throw the Yeastar to configuration the device. That's very simple. Now we can see 3 phones show online now. Even we can throw the Yeastar to log in the device, check the web page. Yeah. Now we can see the extension show register. So through the Yeastar auto operation is very simple. Just need the device in the same line.